Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I have a treat for you. MiGs are moving in to attack a formation of Allied bombers. As the pilot of an XF-85 Parasite fighter, you must defend the bombers and ensure they reach their target. Do you see where this is going, guys? Do you see yet? Wait for it. There it is! Ladies and gentlemen, the first, the only XF-85 Parasite fighter in War Thunder. Now, this is not the first Parasite fighter, but this is the first XF-85 Goblin. Those are B-29s. Now, the XF-85 Goblin was originally designed to be launched out of its mothership being a Convair B-36 bomber. Now, they also tested these in B-36s and B-29s. We only have B-29s in the game, and my team over here was working pretty hard on the Goblin, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could have B-36s as well? But like, that would take a long time, and I just wanted to show you guys the progress where we're at right now. Furthermore, this is a user-made mission. There's arcade versions and realistic battle versions for both, and there's two different versions. There's MiG-9, you can chase MiG-9s, and you can chase MiG-15s. Personally, chasing MiG-15s in an XF-85 Goblin in realistic battles is a true challenge. Now, the maps are not out quite yet. You're seeing this on Sunday. There's a few things that need to be worked out and fixed a little bit, so we're still kind of working on that. So stay tuned for... In the episode on Men of War Mondays, basically tomorrow, I should have news whether or not the patch should be out Monday or Tuesday, but I'll definitely have news at the very beginning of the Men of War Monday episode, because I would imagine, and like that's part of the beauty of this, is like I want you guys to experience this model, this Goblin, this Parasite fighter. Now, it's not the first Parasite fighter to be in the game. We do have the Polikarpov I-16, and the Polikarpov I-16 was a Parasite fighter for the TB3, one of my favorite, but albeit derpy bombers in War Thunder. So this baby right here, you can see, look at the front of the wings, like look at the level of detail, especially when you're maneuvering. Like it's funny because the nose almost looks very similar to, you know, an F-84. But anyway, so the McDonnell XF-85 Goblin, let's go over to the wiki to kind of get a figure as to what this fighter's all about. But I want you guys to be thinking while you're watching, and then when you've thought about it, decent amount of thought, you know, dude, chasing MiG-9s, those things are wily little truckers, man. But I want you guys to be thinking what custom model you'd like to see me and my team work on next, because we can do that. That's the beauty of War Thunder. Right now, aircraft, it's relatively... It's easier, far easier. In fact, I don't think anyone's made a custom or a user-made tank for War Thunder yet, but there are a few aircraft out there. There's a few really good model makers out there. And right now, most of them are doing it for free, you know, just labors of love and stuff like that, and it's really cool to see their work. So this is kind of... we're going to start a series here. The B-29s reached the airfield, mission completed. However, once the B-29s do reach the airfield, you can continue on in this mission. I want you to be able to just kind of chase down as long as you want, so you can play as long as you want. And in a little bit, we're gonna switch over to realistic battles, and you can compare the difference of how difficult it kind of is sometimes, because the XF-85 Goblin had M3 50 caliber machine guns, right? And you can see that there's 4 in the nose. Now, there was only 2 of these ever built, and I think one of the coolest things is that when you try this thing out, the Goblin, like when you press gear, right above the nose, right above the Goblin's nose, a little hook comes out to kind of show that this thing doesn't have landing gear. It was a Parasite aircraft. It would lock and then kind of belly land, right? Like, that's how this thing did. It would prefer to dock back with its mothership, but it had no landing gear at all. So as a result, when you do hit gear, that hook goes up, and I think that's one of the coolest little features of this Goblin. Now, unfortunately, the mothership hook from a B-29, or if there was a B-36, a Convair B-36 in the game, there isn't that docking mechanic, and I think War Thunder could eventually, they got a lot of other things that they're working on, more vehicles, constantly balancing and changing VRs and stuff like that, and now dealing with graphics and sounds and all of that. There's much more important things to work on than kind of Parasite aircraft mothership mechanics, but it would be kind of cool. Look at this MiG-9. The AIs here are all programmed to focus on the B-29 bombers, but 2 of these were built in 1948, and the program was canceled in 1949, so it's well within the scope. It is it's almost like an American ME-163 in a way. But it's really kind of cool because if you look at the number of different designs of Parasite aircraft just throughout the history of, aerospace engineering, and then specifically within World War II, it's pretty cool. I mean, like, there were blimps that used these same kinds of mechanics whereby, the aircraft would have a hook on it, and then the blimp would have a hook under it. So, like, blimps were, like, in a way, aircraft carriers way back in the day. Or Zeppelins or dirigibles for you. But the TB3, I think, is one of the coolest because it could carry 153s and 116s. Or I-16s. Wow, 116s. I-16s. And there was even the Polikarpov I-16 SPB were dive bomber versions of them. And TB3s that fly so slow carried them. And they used them in 1941, the Russians did, in an actual attack in Romania, attacking kind of a Romanian port facility. And then they did them later against, German movements in the Crimea. So, and then the Germans and the Americans also kind of explored this design. And there was some really, and the Japanese as well. The Japanese had a really cool one. But the Germans used a Messerschmitt Me-328 as a Parasite fighter, which was kind of a what would you say, prototype or like future design for a pulse jet aircraft. But didn't really work out too well. There was all kinds of designs. The Americans, I remember there was this one crazy design where they had one of their bombers, and the bomber was just filled with high explosives. And I wouldn't say it was a Parasite fighter per se. It's not a true Parasite, mothership and then baby, let's just say, mothership and Parasite relationship. It was like there was a fighter on the top, and it was connected to the bomber, and then the bomber was filled with explosives, and then they would guide the bomber to hit a target, and they used them to hit bridges. And so, unlike some of the other cultures like the Japanese, where kamikaze was common form, or at least later in the war, and socially accepted, that kind of stuff was not accepted in American society and American military format, right? So the pilot of the basically explosives-filled bomber plane would then climb up to the fighter and escape as the thing would basically kind of power its way. Once it was kind of directed to hit its objective, which generally were German bridges, the pilot would then kind of dip out of there. And I thought that was pretty cool. Like, all this stuff is like really, really fascinating. And so I think like these are some lesser known aircraft, but they are nonetheless awesome. And it's pretty cool stuff. And it makes you wonder, like, for like a dynamic battle, right, or a dynamic campaign, or basically where I think War Thunder Endgame should go, I think Parasite fighters, motherships, stuff like that would fit in rather nicely. Dude, did one of those MiGs just run into a B-29? Anyway, but yeah, so like imagine TB3, like your buddy's piloting a TB3, and your other buddy's piloting another TB3, and then there's 4 other buddies all in I-16s, and then once like you get to the objective, you see some like low-tier German aircraft flying out to come get you, and then like you break off and you go shoot, you know, you go dogfight, and then the survivors come back and dock back, or you have the dive bomber versions, right? And then, you know, in the later war, you know, you've got B-29s. Like, all of a sudden, like, there's a formation of Big 9s coming up to intercept you, whether they be AI or human controlled. And then the B-29, out of its bomb bay, all of a sudden, there's an XF-85 Goblin right there to hopefully defend the bomber and the bomber formation, right? But the cool thing is what the Japanese did. I think they had one of the coolest Parasite. I wouldn't call it a fighter though. But the Empire of Japan had the Yokosuka MXY-7 Oka kamikaze rocket plane. And these were generally dropped out of Mitsubishi G4M Betty bombers, which we do have in the game. So we have a couple motherships in the game with the TB3 and a G4M Betty. And these things were literally like, imagine a 163, but instead of like the cannons, it was filled with like high explosives, and these things were used to hit ships, allied shipping in the Pacific, as the war seemed very dire for Japan, and they kind of resorted to more like kamikaze attacks and stuff like that. So, I mean, even the F-84 Thunderjet was at one point kind of a what would you say, a Parasite fighter. Like, they experimented with those designs. But I think like what you can see right here is like, you know, it's hard to put enough, you know, fuel, ammunition, firepower, and maneuverability and durability into an aircraft that could be launched from a mothership, and then that mothership has to carry less bomb load. So, you know, like, for the most part, it was a cool idea, but it wasn't really a commonly accepted military practice. It was more experimentation, but there's some really cool, just like Parasite and mothership kind of aircraft combinations that were used in the history of aerospace engineering. And I thought the Goblin was one of the cool ones, so that's why we did it. Obviously, there's so many aircraft that have not been implemented in War Thunder, so you guys have a say as to what like you'd want my team to work on next. Like, we can pretty much do whatever. So like, leave a comment below if someone leaves one that you think would be amazing. Go ahead and upload it, similar to the tank request series that we've had running on this channel for quite a while, and we need to get back to, by the way. We'll get back to it this week. So today's Sunday, tomorrow's Men of War Mondays. We'll have news on the Goblin so that you guys can try it, and then you guys can take pictures of you flying it and tweet them to me and stuff like that. That'd be pretty cool to let me know you guys are appreciating it. It will be up on the live.warthunder page as well. So once that's available, if you're checking this out not on Sunday and like later, there will be a video, or there will be a link in the video description linking you directly to where you can download it yourself. Look at this. This is something only in this mission. But that's one of the things about like working with kind of like the CDK to make missions and stuff like that. Oh, yeah. Oh, overshoot. There we go. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me know which vehicle you'd like to see next, which plane specifically, because tanks are difficult and ships are impossible right now. But so we're talking planes. Let me know which plane you'd like to see next that we create, and then we can make user missions for you guys to play. Because that's the beauty of this. This is kind of an area of War Thunder that I think it's time to like explore a little more. So ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Make sure to pull the trigger on that like button, share the video with a friend, and I will see you soon.